So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Shihan from Inverter Corporation. We are the organizer of the webinar today. Welcome aboard with us. So ever since the publication of the first round solar FIT in Vietnam, the country has become one of the hottest solar energy investment destinations in Southeast Asia. Especially in 2020, Vietnam has experienced a rapid growth in the rooftop solar sector. Therefore, during this webinar, speakers will give in-depth interpretation of the new era of Vietnam rooftop solar and energy storage market. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction and a big welcome to our speakers for today. For the plenary speech, we are honored to have Mr. Lim Chong Boon, the head of product and marketing APAC from Trina Solar Asia Pacific, and Mr. Jackie Dao, the Vietnam technical manager from GoodWe, to deliver the presentation. As for the panel discussion, we are very honored to have the moderator, Mr. Dave Shebert. He is the Senior Legal Advisor and Deputy Head Regional Energy Mining and Infrastructure Practice from DFDL. And for the panelists, it is our great pleasure to have Mr. Lorenzo Mancini, the Regional Sales Director from Total Solar Distributed Generation, Ms. Solange William, the Country Head of Vietnam from LYS Energy, Mr. Alan Zhao, the Country Manager of Vietnam from Trina Solar Asia Pacific, and Mr. Eric Pham, the Vietnam Sales Manager from GoodWe. So for today's webinar, we will first start with a 10 minutes plenary speech given by Mr. Lim from Trina Solar with the topic of Trina Solar Vertex series, following by another 10 minutes plenary speech given by Mr. Jackie Dao from GoodWe with the topic of create a new era of smart energy. We will have Vietnamese simultaneous interpretation for the plenary speech session only, so please kindly choose between the channels based on your language preferences. After the plenary speeches, we will invite Mr. Dave Shebert from DFDL, Ms. Solange William from LYS Energy, Mr. Lorenzo from Total Solar Distributed Generation, Mr. Alan from Trina Solar, and Mr. Eric from GoodWe to join us for the panel discussion with the topic of Outburst in 2020 and forecast to 2030, the new era of Vietnam's rooftop solar and energy storage market. Also, we will introduce the winner for the lottery session after the panel discussion. So please make sure to stay to the end to see if you have won the prize sponsored by Trina Solar and GoodWe. The organizer of today's webinar, New Venture Corporation, is dedicated to supporting key investors and developers for successful development and investment in Asia-Pacific renewable energy sector. Our footprints cover Asia-Pacific countries such as Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, China, Myanmar, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and some Middle East countries. Before starting the webinar, I would also like to introduce our attendees with some housekeeping notes here. If you experience any technical issues or have any questions for our speakers, please do feel free to use the below Q&A box. We will leave a Q&A time after the panel discussion. And also, we will share the webinar recordings with all of you by next week through your registration email. So now I will go ahead and hand the microphone to Mr. Lim, the first speaker for today from Trina Solar. And please keep in mind that there will be a simultaneous Vietnamese interpretation for Mr. Lim's presentation. So please kindly choose between the Vietnamese channel and the English channel based on your language preference. Let's welcome Mr. Lim.
Yeah, thank you. So let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen now. Once again, thank you New Venture for organizing this, and thank you to all the participants for your time today. I'm Lim from Trina Solar. So I'll use this 10 minutes to have a brief introduction about Trina and our new Vertex series products.
Tôi phụ trách mảng kỹ thuật và hỗ trợ quảng bá sản phẩm của hãng Trina Solar cho khu vực châu Á Thái Bình Dương.
Milestone of Trina Solar Company. We are founded in 1997, so we have more than 20 years of experience.
Lịch sử phát triển công ty Trina Solar, công ty được thành lập năm 1997. Trong hơn 20 năm tham gia thị trường năng lượng mặt trời, chúng tôi đã đánh dấu những sự kiện quan trọng.
In 2006 And now we have relisted
Trong
again
năm ngoái,
to the
năm
Shanghai Stock
2020,
Exchange
chúng
Stock
tôi đã
Market
niêm yết thành công tại sàn
2020.
sàn giao dịch chứng khoán Thượng Hải Stock Market, đồng thời cũng giới thiệu ra những
So also
sản
we
phụ
are
mới.
the top
Đây,
most bankable
giới thiệu phần
solar
sau.
module supplier ranked
Chúng
by
tôi cũng là
Bloomberg
đơn vị liên
New
tục
Energy
được xếp hạng
Finance
cao nhất
for
về
5 times
bankability
in
của
a
hãng
row
Bloomberg
since
trong các nhà sản xuất tấm pin năng
2016
lượng mặt
until
trời.
now.
Về mặt công nghệ, trong những năm gần đây, chúng tôi đã giới thiệu
210 mm.
ra thị trường
I'm
những
sorry,
tấm
Mr.
pin
Hong.
210.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Hong. Can you please
Okay.
go to the Vietnamese channel? We can hear you in the English channel here.
I already choose the channel. How is wrong? However, I see here only the 40 new people just know Vietnamese, so maybe it's better we will talk in English. Is that okay? Hello?
Yeah, I think we will keep to the English.
Yes, yes. I think you keep in English, it's better.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Hong. Okay, so yeah, sorry for the slight interruption. We will continue. So on the technology of Trina Solar, so since late last year, we introduced a 210 mm silicon wafer size. And then now we also have the N-type ITOPCon modules in the planning. So target will be probably sometime late this year, 2021. And we also have the HDD technology, which we are So this is a brief history of how the module power bin has changed over the last 10 years. So on the left, we can see this is the global capacity estimate for high power modules. So effectively for the next, during this 2 to 3 years period, the capacity itself has almost tripled. Then on the right is the history of the power bin upgrade. So especially from 2020, we see the 500 watt modules coming up. And then from then on, it was a 50 watt to 70 watt increase for the different module. So now we are approaching the 700 watt for the N-type products. So despite all the modules improvement, which is the LCOE, so the levelized cost of energy. So effectively, this will be meaning that the LCOE is the total cost divided by total power generation. So you can see from the equation here, total cost will be comprising of the module cost, the BOS cost, and what will impact on this will be on the module power and the module efficiency. And on the below will be on the power generation, which mainly translate the module power generation and the module reliability over the lifetime of the system. So this is the Trina product roadmap since 2020 Q3, where we have first launched the 500 watt module for 210, and then we have the 550, 600, and now we are moving towards the 660 watt coming in the second half of this year. So besides the larger footprint, we also have a smaller footprint, which is targeted for residential and small C&I market. So we have the 400 watt module, which is launched in February this year. So this is the comprehensive product portfolio that we have. On the top half of the table is on the 166 mm module, 166 mm cell size. So basically this covers the power bin from 350 to 450 watt. And then on the second half of the table will be on the 210 mm cell size. So the power bin ranges from 390 watt all the way to 670 watt. So we have different modules and different power bin that is targeted for all the different applications. So some of the innovative technology that we are using in our modules. So basically, you can see on the top left, we have increased the wafer size from the previous generation of 158, 166, and then to 210. And at the same time, we have also deployed a multi-bus bar onto the larger size wafer. So you can see for 210, we are using 10 bus bar and 12 bus bar depending on the model. But on the right is a non-destructive cutting, which is an improvement of the half-cut cell technology. So we have switched to a low temperature laser to slice through the cell so that we can avoid sharp edges and also maintain the mechanical integrity as similar as possible to a non-cut cell. Then we also have the high density interconnection technology. Basically is to minimize the gap size between each. So just a little bit more detail. Frame, and then we have the all black, and then we have the black frame. So this is based on a 1/3 cut design layout. So we have put a lot of thought into this module in terms of the size and weight, so that it will be flexible enough to be installed in most of the residential rooftop, and also maximize the space available for a small residence. So as we do the comparison against the other models, you will find that for a same size rooftop using Trina Vertex S, we can install approximately about 18.23 kilowatt as compared to others. So that's about 10% increase in terms of total system capacity. Next will be on our high power Vertex module, the bifacial and also the monofacial. So we can see this will be offered in the 3 different models, 550 watt, 600 watt, and 670 watt. So using 550 watt as an example, so this is based on the low voltage, high current design. It is a 5x11 layout half cut cell. So you can see it comprises of all the technology that was explained earlier. So you can see that the key advantage of using this low voltage, high current design will be to increase the number of modules per string. And by increasing the per string power, we're able to achieve reduction in the BOS cost. So this is an interesting table that we see here, which shows over the last 10 years how the string power has increased related to the system voltage size. And now we can see approaching the 210 cell in the middle right part of the table. You can see that the number of pieces per string has increased significantly as compared to previous. So this will help to achieve the reduction in the BOS cost compared to last time. So in the next generation, probably when the system voltage further upgrade to 2000 volts, and we can connect even more pieces of module per string, you can see a further reduction in terms of the BOS cost. So besides that, we have also done evaluation together with third-party DMV on tracker scenarios that is using the Trina high power modules. So as an example here, we compared between 450 watt, 535 watt, and 545 watt. So overall, we see the EPC cost decrease for 545 watt, mainly coming from using a higher power bin, means we have less number of modules to install. And the low voltage design will use less number of strings, less DC cables, wiring work. And when we put it at a tracker perspective, the total length of the tracker is reduced, so the total weight is also reduced. So all this will add up to achieve the lower BOS cost at the system level. So besides one portrait tracker scenario, we have also do the simulation for 2 portrait tracker, portrait fixed tilt, and landscape fixed tilt. So we do see a consistent result of the higher power bins having a lower BOS cost as compared to the lower power bins. So next will be on our latest launch product, which is the Vertex 670 watt. So you can see here, this is a 132 cell, 66 half cut cell. So the size is about 2.3 by 1.3. For monofacial backsheet is 33.9 kilo and bifacial is about 38.7 kilo. So this is still following our low voltage, high current design concept. So we have a lot of questions on how we handle this large dimension modules. So we have done a lot of tests and able to maintain the same mechanical load performance as compared to the traditional modules. So in terms of the IEC standards of front load 5,400 and back load 2,400, we are able to achieve that similarly for these large dimension modules with the optimization in the frame design. Of course, we also consider the container loading. What are some of the restrictions and way that we can load this larger footprints module into the container? So you can see here on the left is a conventional two-stack packing configuration. On the right is our new vertical placement, which will be used for these large size modules. So this is how it will look like inside a 40-foot container. So as compared to the other power bins, we are able to get about 12% more power packed into the same 40-foot container. So similarly, when I put it into a project perspective, so based on a case study of 100 megawatt, and we will compare a 670 watt with a 540 watt module, we also can see that by using these higher power modules, we can achieve savings in racking, the foundation, the cables, and the installation. So at the same time, with this low voltage, high current design parameters, we have worked with various key inverter suppliers. So there's no problem to use the central inverter. And for the string inverter, most of the key string inverter suppliers already have the compatible model to be used with this high power and high current module. So similarly for trackers, we also work with the key tracker suppliers to make sure that the design is compatible. So last, this is just a case study that have been commissioned and installed in China in early this year. And finally, I will just show again on the Trina Vertex family. So starting from the left is our Vertex S, and then we have the 18 series. So these two are mainly for the resi and the commercial industrial rooftop. Then we have 19, 20, 21, which can be used for ground-mounted utility projects, floating projects. So we have the full range of modules to cater for all the different applications. With that, thank you everyone for your time today. Yes, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lim, for your great information sharing. And now I would like to go ahead and hand the mic to Mr. Jackie Dao from Goodwe. And there will also be simultaneous Vietnamese interpretation for Mr. Dao's presentation. So please feel free to choose between the channels. Let's welcome Mr. Jackie.
Okay, thank you, Shihan, and hello everyone. So I'm Jackie, Technical Service Manager.
Hôm nay Goodwe xin được giới thiệu
about our companies and
của Goodwe tại Việt Nam. Goodwe được thành lập vào năm 2000.
And understanding of the needing in core technology, so we focus on to open an R&D centers right after the established in 2011, and 3 years later we first launched
Mexico, Brazil, Ấn Độ và mới đây nhất là Mỹ và Nhật Bản. Từ năm 2016
to global markets and open two offices in UK, and that's also in the same years. And since 2016, we have 6 consecutive years achieved the TUV certificate for our inverter products. Then last year we listed on Shanghai stock with the, and also we achieved a license partner program with GE companies. And in 2021 we are expanding to market in Japan and US with 2 offices there. And last year our revenues is about $244 million US. And I have to say thank to all of the great effort of all the employees of our companies with more than 2,300 people with 500 staff, and about all of the sales representative office around the world is about 50 or 80 staff or overseas staff. Our capacity, our inverter capacity is about 20 gig. Very soon we are expanding our new factories in Guangzhou with the capacity will be expand to 25 gig very soon, and our battery capacity is about 400 megawatt hour. We are also the top one of the storage inverter listed by Good McKenzie's, and in the other market like China, India, we also in top list. We also have the full solution from residential solution from 0.7 kilowatt to 15 kilowatt inverters. For utility and scale solution, we have the over 200 kilowatts. For commercials and industrial, we also have the solution, and of course for the storage, and we have the inverter and also the battery also. With the whole solution, we offer free of the smart energy management system to all our customers. So based on this system, the customer can monitoring the power flows and consumption and any other things of the customer's system. As mentioned, we have the on-grid inverter. We have the single phase, 3-phase, and small of the single phase is XS series with the 0.7 kilowatt, and the biggest of the 3-phase we have the HD series with 250 kilowatt. For storage inverter, we also have the single phase, 3-phase with small. It is about 1 kilowatt, and biggest is BTC for commercials and industrial. We have the 50Ks. Then very soon, I think in Q4, we will announce a new models of BTC up to the power rate with the 100 kilowatt. Yes, as mentioned, we have the total solution from single phase, 3-phase, and from small it is less than 1 kilowatt to over 200 kilowatts. For residential, we have the MS, DNS, SDT, and XS series with the oversizing DC up to 100% and very light, easy to installations. And the maximum input current is about 25A. For commercials and industrial solution, we have the SD version, MT version, SMTs, and SDT versions with the number of MPPT up to 12 MPPTs, and the full load operation at 50 degrees Celsius. With the commercial and industrial solution, our inverter can run with the DC oversizing up to 50% of the power rate. So, and especially in utility scale, we have the solution for HD version with the high voltage DC input, with the very fast communication we're using power line communication protocols and internal humidity detection. This will help the customer to know that the environment is around the site, the installation site. With the on-grid, we have the 400 voltage solution for based on the power rate range from 25 kilowatt to 120 kilowatts. And we also have the solution for high voltage ACs with the inverter that is from 70 kilowatt to 250 kilowatts. For residential and for the storage of the residential solution, we have the ET, EH, ES, EM, and BT versions with the 100% unbalanced load output backups and wide range of the battery voltage from low voltage for 48 volts to higher with our heavy batteries. And especially we have we apply the UPS standards of switching levels. That means you can have the continuous of the backup power without interrupted the powers. For storage system, as you know, the logic of the operations will be your power will be used for the load and batteries. And later, if we have the excessive power, will be able to export to grid. Then the load consumption priority will be from PV to batteries, and if the power will be supplements for the rest power on demand. As mentioned above, we have the UPS level switching time with the 10 milliseconds. This means your power supply will be continued without disturb. This is UPS standard. And of course, we have the backup solution for residential level. So we also have the CNI, the backup solution by BTC products with the modular designs. And this is included the AC and DC combiner box. It means you do not have to buy the external AC and DC combiner box outside. And of course, we support 100 of the unbalanced outputs with the UPS level switching times. And with the high power rate, we support the remote shutdowns in the emergency case. You can stay on your control rooms and hit one button for emergency shutdown of the whole system. Or with BTC, what can we do? So we have a cell-use solution with the you have the PV solars productions, and you want to save to batteries and use it for another time of the days. So this time the battery will be discharged for your using. For backup use for emergency.
Phải dùng. Đây là giải pháp dự phòng, giải pháp backup thì điện từ
backup load when the power cut. And about peak savings, you can save the peak power from the high capacity of the PV solars and save another time of the days or when the blackout. Of course, we can combine the peak savings and backup use solution together. And we also can combine the peak savings and backup and self-use the solution for all of our requirement on using powers. And to design up your system, your backup system, you need to calculate very carefully based on the power rate, the consumption load, and your total power rate of the PV solar system. So if you have any difficult on the design, you can contact our support teams, and we are ready to help you to design the whole backup system for your solars, for your backups, and for your power system. We are not only provide the inverter, we can supply the battery, like from low voltage to high voltage with we call that the Lean series, with the Lean Home, Lean S, and Lean F, with the modular designs, and very easy to set up to installation, and of course run very well and compatible with our inverter would be. And here is some of our typical project. There is one of the solid project in South Africa with the 20 kilowatt. And the other project in Italy is with the 200 kilowatt. And of course, for the whole solution of the residential and CNI and utility, we provide the free portal for monitoring your power system. And you can, based on this portal, you can have the detailed report of your system, like errors. So any problem with your system, what is your current status, like what inverter is online, what inverter offline, and of course some of the function you can remote, like set the active power. You can see the environment at the installation site, and even remote shut down your system. And this is the whole of this very short brief about companies and our solution to bring you. And if any question, feel free to leave us, and we are ready to support all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie, for the information sharing. And now it's time to start our panel discussion session for today with the topic of Outburst in 2020 and forecast to 2030, the new era of Vietnam's rooftop solar and energy storage market. So let's welcome Mr. Dave Schubert, Ms. Soling William, Mr. Lorenzo Mancini, Mr. Alan Zhao, and Mr. Eric Fong. And now I will hand the mic to Mr. Dave Schubert. He will be the moderator for today's panel discussion. Let's welcome. Hello, Dave.
Hi, sorry. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, and thank you for those kind words and introductions. I think we'll start by just saying thanks for Goodway and Trina and NeoVenture for hosting this event. I think to start, it might be worthwhile for everybody to go around and just give a very brief introduction as to who they are and their capacity in Vietnam. So to start that discussion, maybe we'll start with Celine.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dave, for organizing that discussion, and thank you very much to NeoVenture for inviting me to join. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. So I'm Solen from Lease Energy Group, managing the operation of the company in Vietnam. For those who don't know about Lease Energy is a Singapore homegrown, purely solar-focused independent power producer that was created by Lionel Steinitz in 2013. So we now have 8 years of experience in supporting our CNI customers to decarbonize their activity by installing and operating solar system on their roof. To talk about portfolio capacity, we now have more than 50 megawatt peak under operation, 15 megawatt peak being located here in Vietnam. So that's a brief summary of what we do. Yeah, I'll give back the mic to you, Dave.
Thank you for that, Celine. I think I see Eric next. Do you mind just saying hello and introducing yourself? I think, Eric, are you there? Maybe we'll give Eric a minute to get organized. Alan, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Alan. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you everyone to attend this meeting. It is our honor to invite all of you to have the interesting for our product. So, so you already got the our presentation from our PM, the product management leader Lim, as a speech to introduce our new Vertex product. So okay, so let me. So now it is my time to answer your 3 questions or not?
Just a brief introduction, then I'll go through and start asking some of the prompts.
Yeah. Now I'm taking charge of all the Vietnam market for Trina Solar. We can call the solar solutions. Now we are providing this service for Vietnam market, and we have total 4 to 5 sales managers to take charge of this market, and the 3 are from Vietnam. So they are the local good guys can support all of our customers for the future green energy development. Okay.
Thank you for that. And Eric, are you available to give a brief introduction?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Eric. I'm the Vietnam sales manager of Goodwe. We have people in the top 3 big cities in Vietnam, including Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, and Da Nang. We have a local service center here, and up to now, we already sold out around nearly half of 1 gigawatt in Vietnam market. And from this year, we are more active in terms of utilities as well as the storage inverter product in Vietnam. Yes, that's my introduction.
Thanks, Eric. And last but not least, Lorenzo, please, how are you?
Hi Dave, hi everyone. I'm Lorenzo. I represent Total, which is actually Total Energies now because we have changed name, which is a French big energy company active in traditionally oil and gas, but now switching more or less completely to renewables. We have a very strong commitment to have 35 gigawatts of solar and renewable wind in operation by 2025. I'm based in Singapore for Southeast Asia. Vietnam is a big part of what we are doing in Southeast Asia because there's a huge potential there. We have a local team for solar. Total has been in Vietnam since 1966, so has a big presence there, but we are definitely looking at the country which is probably the most interesting in Southeast Asia. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Lorenzo. Just a little bit about myself. I'm with DFDL. We have offices across Southeast Asia. I'm based in Hanoi. We have a team of about 20, 25 people, and we've been pretty active in the rooftop solar space. We assisted on an international financing of a portfolio of rooftop solar projects in Vietnam. So that was interesting because it's I think it represents the potential for not only development, but then to get some serious financial backing as well. So to start today's discussion, I think we have some prompts, just some conversation pieces, but I don't want to inhibit the conversation. If anybody feels that they want to expand or contribute, please do. And then we also have some Q&A. So at the end, we'll take a look at the questions that are raised and see if we can answer some questions. I think just to start, maybe we can just ask very generally, the key direction of rooftop solar in Vietnam, you know, whether that's self-consumption, that's power purchases, leases. Maybe I'll just open it up to the floor, and I know Celine wanted to answer this question, so maybe Solon, you can start and we'll expand from there.
Thank you, Dave, for that question. I thought before jumping into the future of the Vietnam rooftop solar market, I might just start with a very brief summary of the history of the solar market in Vietnam, just for those who are not familiar, a few key dates, if you think it's helpful. Okay.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do that. So the solar rooftop, the solar market really kicked off in Vietnam in 2017 when the government released the first mechanism, feed-in tariff number 1, called under decision number 11, that proposed a very attractive tariff of 9.35 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour of solar energy sold to the grid if you manage to commission your assets by middle of 2019. So by middle of 2019, Vietnam already counted 4.5 gigawatt peak, mostly ground-mounted projects under operation, which already exceeded by 4 the target of the government. So that first round of feed was very successful, and followed by a break of about 9 months that was necessary for the government to kind of rethought about the next mechanism released under Decision 13 early 2020, with also a very attractive feed-in tariff ranging from 7.08 up to 8.38 cents USD per kilowatt hour of solar energy sold to the grid, depending on the technology, ground-mounted, floating, or rooftop, if you manage to commission your assets by the end of December 2020. And by then, there were already 16.5 gigawatt peak of solar system, all included, installed in the country, 9.5 gigawatt peak being solar system. So it's pretty impressive numbers. However, I think we can all agree that with the end of the second feed-in tariff, this is going to really slow down in terms of installation pace, which brings us to the key direction of the C&I market for solar rooftop, which I believe lies in a self-consumption model. A lot of my peers are already adopting this model. It is maybe a little bit more challenging to install because of the customer approach, which is quite different. The potentials, the number of customers that are willing to commit to such a model, as well as the project itself, would be a bit more complex to install. So this is my view on where we are heading with the C&I rooftop market.
I think that's really insightful. I think to look at where we've been really informs where we're going to go, and especially with the expiration of the future tariff. I welcome any other panelists to add to that if they have further thoughts.
Yeah.
Hi,
yeah, I would like to. Yeah, I think that Solène gave a very clear picture of the history and what's happened to date. One thing only I would like to add is that of the huge amount of gigawatts which have been connected last year, more or less half of it are abusive, in the sense that what's happened is a lot of people, a lot of developers, a lot of customers have distorted to some extent the sense of the rooftop tariff. And a lot of what is being connected is classified as a rooftop, benefits of a rooftop feed-in tariff, which is higher than the ground-mounted, but it's not really a rooftop, in the sense that it's a roof with nothing underneath. It's what it's called agricultural, or what's called in very different many ways. EVN and MOIT have gone to the extent of issuing a clarification letter in September, October last year, just to basically discourage this, which hasn't had a lot of effect. And they are now going to the steps of basically checking on the systems which are being installed if they actually are entitled to benefit of the rooftop tariff. So I think definitely self-consumption is going to be the future, because what is expected to happen is MOIT or EVN to do everything that's possible to discourage roof rental, because they are afraid that it's going to be abused again.
Yeah, I think it was the plain reading of the original rule was that, you know, it was supposed to be a rooftop. So building a roof over a field doesn't, you know, doesn't stand to meet the intent of the regulation. So Lorenzo's quite right. It's been a mitigating effort ever since then. And the future does not stand with just building roofs unnecessarily. So in doing that, the leasing model becomes less attractive because it may be I don't want to say a riskier endeavor, but maybe more of an uncertain endeavor in the future, because we know there's going to be further regulations, or at least further monitoring of the existing regulations. Eric, would you like to add to this, or we can move on to the next topic?
Yes. In the we can see that last year there's a very impressive statistic of rooftop solar in Vietnam. There is 9.3 gigawatt peak of rooftop solar, and among of that, there are more than 70% of the site from 1 megawatt. So I hear that from this year, the government for the upcoming FIT, feed-in tariff price, they intend to lower down the percentage of large-scale rooftop by lower FIT price around 30%, and they are likely to more encourage the residential rooftop solar scale. That means from 10 kilowatt below. For 100 kilowatt size of rooftop is also reasonable price. But many of my customers, including the IPP, I mean the rooftop IPP, the EPC, and the distributor, they are very worried about the draft of FIT price for the CNI scale. They are thinking that with around 5.89 cents per 1 kilowatt hour is too low, since the price of PV module is rising higher and higher, and especially the interest rate of local Vietnam banks still high. So this maybe should have the fund from international funding can fulfill the investment cost. That is my current hearing from the market at the moment.
Alan, I just want to make sure we didn't lose you in this conversation. I see that your video is turned off, but I want to make sure that you're still available.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sure. You know, I think, Eric, that's a really good point. I mean, it's the domestic feed-in tariff is predicted to be reduced. I mean, I think there's no question about that. And then you brought some rather insightful comments about the domestic interest rates, and I think this leads itself to bundling in a portfolio to maybe get international finance, but that might be about 10 steps down the road from where we are today. We can move on to the conversation about future tariff rates, unless Alan, you want to have anything else to comment here.
Yes, you are mentioned how is the advantage of our big these large format modules in commission part, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably be a hedge against the issues Eric raised. But please go ahead.
Okay, so my colleague Lim, Mr. Lim, already gives of you the picture in technical view how to increase more performance of this product. So now we can image and calculate as well. So this product can enlarge your IRR profits for the investors. For instance, so we can save the labor cost of the installation and construction, and we can save the cost from other equipment. So you will use less inverters, equipment, structures, and accessories, BOS, because we may reduce the module numbers. So you don't need more of the other equipment when you install in one stream. Okay, meanwhile, we can reduce the OEM expense because the numbers of all the equipment in this rooftop system is less than our product, older generation products. This is my answer for the first your questions.
And good comments, thank you. I think maybe we'll shift gears a little bit and just talk about potential partners. And I think the Vietnam market generally, you know, every market in the region, especially globally, is a little bit different. So when you look for potential partners, what prospects are interesting to you? Is it their on the ground experience? Is it their access to people on the ground? Is it their history? Are you looking for new players that are up and coming? And maybe we'll start with Celine again, since I don't think we've heard from you recently.
You know, from last year and this year, so the COVID issue is very terrible for everyone. But you know, Vietnam is still one of the fastest developing countries in the world. So so you can see last year and the year before last year, Vietnam is still at the top of GDP increasing countries. It means that economic, trading and energy development shall be still in the rapid growing in Vietnam. So Trina Solar are always focusing on serving the support from our side to help Vietnam evaluation via providing the green energy solutions, include the solar panels and the tracker. Now we have the own the factories in China. So furthermore, we are keeping devoting to the double win for our customers with Trina Solar. So in future, I still would like to get closer connection with all of you as our distributing partners for Rooftop, this business segment.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll go back to Celine. I guess the original question may still stand. What do you look for in partners in approaching the Vietnam market?
Well, if we are talking about equipment partner or EPC partner, I think the point of Mr. Alan is very valid. We are looking at PV module partners that are able to procure new technology, allowing us to reduce our global EPC costs, because I'm not sure that figure is 100% accurate, but for the past 6 months, there's been a drastic increase of 26% of the cost of module, which makes it very difficult for us to keep matching the solar tariff discount that we offered to our customer last year. Same issue with the price of DC cable that have also drastically increased. So the idea would be to find the best equipment partner that can allow us to keep offering a high quality standards to our customer, as well as a reasonable discount. as well as partner with experience on the market. So that was one of the challenges last year for Lease Energy on the construction side, to find the right construction partner with the right experience and ability to deliver following our safety and quality standards, because the market, at least for rooftop, was still very new. So there were not that many assets under operation that enable us to assess the capability of the contractor. I believe this year, this won't be a challenge anymore with the massive capacity of rooftop that has been commissioned. However, yeah, just to summarize, this is what we are looking in our partners, as well as a good connection with the industrial zone, which is important, with the local authorities, understanding on the procedure, because this year is a little bit more challenging, knowing that there is no feed-in tariff or mechanism released yet. So some local EVN provincial people committee, they are not yet 100% confident to approve solarization projects, even though it's under a self-consumption model. So working with partners who can navigate that and that have the ability to explain what is self-consumption, how it works, and that it won't have any impact on the grid is also very important for us.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a number of things that we've had a lot of conversations about over the last even year, and that is, you know, how to work with industrial zones. Each one seems to be a bit unique. How to work with local partners, especially finding one that can clearly convey what you're trying to do and how it won't create grid issues. You know, when you have some sort of site discipline and integration with the existing grid structure. Lorenzo, I think there's a lot of places to expand there. I'd like to hear your comments on any of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that all those are important. I would add one, which is local financing. I think it was mentioned briefly before. It wasn't easy to start with to find local financing in good terms. I think it's become worse this year because probably a lot of banks have been burnt with some projects which haven't been successful, or they've been successful, but maybe the off-taker was not so reliable and so on. So there is a concern there, I think, that the cost of financing that we see in Vietnam compared to other countries is very high. No, that's probably also because the standard PPA contract, which EVN is more or less promulgating, doesn't have a lot of the requirements in terms of bankability, which would be necessary to me for, let's say, a big financial institute to feel safe about the projects.
Yeah, I agree, and this is not sentiment that's only yours. We've heard this in a lot of different corners, and that is that Vietnam is in a very attractive market with a high GDP and a high forecast, but it's not without its challenges, and that's you know, the PPA, the access to financing, the local regulations. I think it's a high reward with some requirements of discipline to really learn how to navigate the climate. Eric, I'll leave it up to you, and then maybe we'll move on to another question. Eric, just seeing if you would like to further expand, and if not, we can move on. So we have a couple of different directions we can go in. I think maybe I'd like to explore a little bit about the issue that Lorenzo just raised, and that is, if your off-taker doesn't pay or stops paying, you kind of have a bit of a stranded asset if you have this corporate rooftop installation and your off-taker is becoming an issue. So what options do you have? You know, this is kind of not something everybody wants to think about, but it's something you have to realize when you have stranded assets on the ground. What can you do?
Yeah, if I can start, that's the biggest concern that all developers have, I think, in the sense that that's the nightmare scenario you don't want to have, because all options are losing ones. I mean, not getting paid is bad, but the idea of taking away the system is not really a workable solution. So you need to avoid putting yourself in that condition from the start. In order to do that, you need to select the off-taker carefully. So in terms of credit reliability, in terms of reputation, everything. But then you need to have a contract which is as much as possible bulletproof. This is something which is not easy to enforce. It's never easy to enforce, but it's even more difficult probably in some cases in Vietnam. But I think it's part of the learning curve. I mean, in the sense that I think it's true, the market has boomed incredibly in the last 2 or 3 years, and developers have sprung out all over the place. What's going to happen, I think, this year and next year is a phase of consolidation in terms of a slow down in terms of a number of megawatts which are being signed or which are being executed, because there's a very big difference between what has been signed and what has been put in operation. But also the number of developers, which will probably be reduced, and there will be less players, bigger, solider, but not as numerous as before.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reoccurring question that we see as well, and it's, do you just take recourse in Singapore, or what can you do on the ground in Vietnam? And this gets back to the other question of, I think, just partner selection and selection of projects and knowing where to go. Eric, would you like to add your thoughts?
Sorry, hello, Eric.
Hello.
Yeah, I think Mr. Dave just passed you a question. Would you like to answer?
Oh, sorry. Could you please repeat again?
Yeah, sure. I think we left off with just, how to navigate the Vietnam climate with the understanding that you may have a stranded asset. With the structure that's in place is that it's really designed to have one off-taker or one buyer. So this might get back to the other question of how do you, select partners, or how do you select projects? Just giving you an opportunity to add your thoughts.
You mean the business model of develop rooftop project in Vietnam at the moment?
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that there are several ways that my customer do. Firstly, they invest for themselves, such as they are the owner of manufacturing base for they made from agriculture business, made from steel or from automotive. That's the first way. The second way is that the professional developer, in terms of professional developers, they also have 2 ways. The first way is they call for revenue sharing between the rooftop owner and them. That means the rooftop owner, they have the rooftop, and the developer, they invest the equipment, and that's agreement to sharing the benefit of electricity selling. This and lastly, also popular another way of cooperation is the developer, they hide the rooftop from the rooftop owner, and they pay a fixed fee for the rooftop owner. So that is on the method that I know.
Okay, and sorry, just to check with Neo Venture, I know we're at our time limit. Should we conclude or should we keep going for a few minutes?
Maybe.
Yeah, please. Sorry.
Oh, my apologies. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, sorry, Mr. Dave. So maybe if there's more things that you would like to share, you can also feel free to go ahead for a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Selene. I think we might have cut you off. Sorry.
No problem. Just before closing, I wanted to add on. You were mentioning struggle asset, no payment from the off-taker. I agree with all the points mentioned earlier by Lorenzo. It is, of course, the most important is to carry out a proper due diligence on your clients. I think apart from the financial statements, what we try to check carefully as well is their decarbonization commitment, because there is a high risk of reputation here if they commit and in the end they don't buy the solar energy anymore or don't pay, so we turn off the system, obviously. So this might be a way to settle before going to 2 years trial or move the asset away from the site, which is agreed lose-lose. So this is also one way to select your customer, to make sure that they have green energy targets in place. And what we do as well is we are very careful with the lease. We check if they own the land use rights, if they own the factory, for how long. So that can also prevent some bad surprise of the factory moving away in 5 years from now, for example.
Yeah, I think that's a very important item in the sense that there are some risks which is impossible to anticipate. The land use, for example, it's obvious that there are factories which are located in areas which the government or the local government decides to redevelop, so they might ask everyone to move away in 10 years' time, and there's nothing they can do about it. On the other hand, there is a lot of factories which it's possible with correct due diligence to understand if it's doable or not to do a rooftop solar system on top. The same applies for the condition of the roof, because in several cases, the roof, the building itself has not been designed to install anything on the roof. And even if the solar system has a weight and a load which is normally quite acceptable, it's still an added load on a structure which is not designed for it. And if it's a bit old or it's a bit rusty and so on, this is a big concern and needs to be realized in advance.
These are interesting. These are perspectives I don't always get a firsthand account of. You know, sitting at a law firm behind the desk, I don't necessarily always think about whether or not the physical structure is appropriate. So that's quite interesting. I think that you know, we've been tasked with talking a little bit about energy storage solutions as well. So I think, in closing, you know, I welcome your comments on that. I mean, we've seen them just bundled on the backside of existing projects, but we know there's not really much of a regulatory framework in Vietnam for that. Would anybody like to approach that topic and how you approach storage solutions with these projects, or maybe that's another question for another day?
I can add some idea about the energy storage, because I also received many inquiries from Vietnamese customers about storage. The first type of requirement is for the self-consumption at the time that don't have the solar, such as the at night. That is the first demand. And the second demand is that is from the power cut down of EVN. You know that recently because of the grid overload, so the average power cut down from EVN is from 10 to 15%. So there's many inquiry for the CNIs and even utility scale. But the problem, the current problem is that all the vendor have a solution, but it depends on the Vietnam government. Vietnam government still not issue the law that can accept the power generated from the ENS, the energy storage system, to the EVN grid. But anyway, for rooftop solar, I found some high potential for the self-consumption. For sure that to enhance the self-consumption, we need the energy storage.
Yeah, and I think this touches on an interesting point that we can talk about for hours, and that is that you know, there's a grid risk, and that's inherent with all the projects, and how do you mitigate curtailment and grid risk. Maybe I'll just leave an opportunity for everybody to have a bit of a closing remark before we move on. I'm cognizant that we're a few minutes over, so I just want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, okay, if I can, I think energy storage is definitely interesting, but no one has really found a way of making it economically viable at the moment. And this applies also to Vietnam. Accumulating the energy which is generated on Sundays and public holidays, for example, for use during the week is technically possible, but it's not economically viable. So, and this is not going to change in the near future, because even if the cost of storage goes down, it would have to go down really dramatically because before that's feasible. It's possible, and it's quite common now in Vietnam, to install small energy storage systems, very small, 50 kilowatt hours, less than 100 kilowatt hours, not in commercial and industrial environment, but more on residential scale or commercial and small operations, 7-Eleven, something like that, which on one hand pay a very premium tariff. They pay a higher tariff to start with, and there is a very big difference between the night tariff and the day tariff. So it's possible basically to accumulate energy during the night from the grid and then use it during the day. This is a relatively simple model, but is also dependent on grid tariffs. So it's probably not bankable from a big developer point of view, because it could be basically destroyed overnight at the moment that EVN decides to change the tariffs.
If I may add to that, I agree with Lorenzo that for now in Vietnam, it's a bit difficult for CNI customer to install energy storage solution. It could go up to doubling the cost of the project, depending on which capacity and load you intend to store and how long. And for now, the grid definitely remain the best battery. I think that in the upcoming, with the upcoming feed-in tariff 3, there will be also restriction on the exports. So the idea would be really anyway to focus on self-consumption model and to allow the asset owner to evacuate and get paid for a minimal quantity of energy that is produced during weekends and national holidays. We've modeled, not for Vietnam, but for other countries like Indonesia, for instance, battery storage, CapEx based solution, and so far, yeah, financially not interesting, not viable. So that would be my input on the topic.
Thanks, and I think maybe we'll move on to the Q&A. I'll give Alan just a moment to summarize his thoughts if you'd like to add, and then we'll move on to the Q&A, if that's okay. Alan, would you like to comment, or should we move on to the Q&A?
Yes. So from last year, so you know, the CNI segment business developed very fast in Vietnam market. Actually, 1 year or 2 years before, so they are only developing the utility grounding projects. So it was a big challenge for everyone from last year how to develop this distribution market in Vietnam. But it is still very nice when we communicate with all the clients in Vietnam in the distribution market. But this year, you know, still until now, the FIT3 is not issued. And everyone is still waiting for the new policy for both CNI and the utility segment. We are looking forward to seeing the policy would be issued and claimed as soon as possible, and then we will start the new favor and the supporting for the local developers and customers from Trina side.
Thank you, Alan. And just checking in with our host, Neo Venture. It's okay to start with a Q&A? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks for the questions. I think there's 9 here, and I'll kind of go through them as they're submitted. Okay. So one question about technical literature. Maybe that's best handled offline. Trina Solar, question for Trina Solar. Are your products produced in Vietnam, or where are they imported from? Maybe Alan can answer that one offline as well. So Jane asked, will the Vietnam government announce the new feed-in tariff policy this year? How is the expectation about the installation of rooftop grid systems and storage capacity? Okay, so I think these are kind of 2 questions and not necessarily tied to the feed-in, only the feed-in tariff policy. So I'll leave it for the floor if anybody wants to guess it, if the new feed-in tariff policy will be issued this year.
Yeah, I think guess is the right word. I mean, everyone has an idea. It was supposed to be May. It was more or less announced, I think, in May. Then it was supposed to be Q3. Now they're saying Q4, but Dave, you know as better as I do, as well as I do, that there's no clear information on it. No? I think that they are sounding the market. They're trying to understand what they need to do. They are trying to learn from lessons on feed-in tariff 1 and feed-in tariff 2. But presumably, yes. The point is that last year when it was issued, I think, in April, and it was only for COD at the end of December. So there was a window of 7-8 months, and either the projects are already started or close to starting, otherwise it was missed. Now I think if it is issued, it can't be limited to COD end of December because it's too short. So it would have to be for a longer period of time. Let's say COD end of December 2022, which means that there is no hurry to issue it anytime soon. They could very easily skip a year and just go to next year. But this is all, I mean, it's just plucking numbers out of the air. There is no clear indication, I think. At least I don't have it unless anyone else has it.
I don't have a crystal ball either. However, I believe that the release of the feed-in tariff 3 might be very linked to the release of the PDP, the Power Development Plan number 8, which was supposed to be signed by the former Prime Minister before his mandate ended in March. For some reason, it wasn't signed off. and know the government is, well, very busy with the current COVID-19 outbreak. So I think they have bigger challenges to tackle at the moment. In the current PDP8 draft, the planning for 2030 is to install a total capacity of 20 gigawatt peak of solar. And Vietnam has already installed by end of last year 16.5. So in my opinion, it doesn't leave much room for expansion. However, there are many mechanisms that are being developed right now. The auction mechanism for floating and ground mounted, the DPPA that has been that should be ready for launching by end of this year, and the FIT 3 obviously. So I believe that before approving any of these new mechanisms, the government might be carefully reviewing the target of the number of megawatts of solar to be installed by 2030. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is just my personal opinion and assumption.
I think even though they might be your personal opinion, I think you're pretty accurate. You know, I'll leave it to Eric or Alan if they want to comment. I don't want to, as a moderator, I don't want to inject myself too much into the conversation, but I do have my own thoughts. So I think just to add a little bit, I think you're right. They're all related. PDP8, the feed-in tariff for solar and the feed-in tariff for wind are all related. And I think the I don't want to call it a delay per se, but I think the hesitation in issuing, and maybe it's a delay. Maybe the delay in issuing the feed-in tariff is a result of just seeing what capacity does come online, and just I think a little bit of uncertainty as to what price they need to offer to incentivize installation, but not over incentivize. You know, and I don't think they're immune to the results of what's happening in Cambodia and Myanmar with their auctions as well. With the and I know it's for ground mounted utility scale solar, but it was very cheap in comparative to Vietnam. So I don't think they're immune to those results either. You know, when I pose the question, does anybody want to guess? I think it's because it's very hard to predict what's going to happen in the past feed-in tariff with the draft decision being issued over a span of, I think, 14 months is probably an indicator as to what will happen here. And what is happening here is that it's going to be, I think, slow and hard to predict until it's actually issued. Looking at the other questions.
I'm sorry to
Fine.
interrupt, Mr. Dave. Yeah, it
Sure.
seems like we are running a little bit over time right now. So I see that there are a lot of more questions that were asked by our attendees that were not answered. And don't worry about it. We will sum up the questions and we will provide them to our speakers. And thanks again, everyone, for the great discussion and the information sharing. And now I would like to go ahead and move to the lottery session. So the gift card winner for today are Dao from Howie Energy, Viet Wing from DK Engineering, Sung Hong from JP Corps, Claudio Dineb from Shareoak International, Chen Ming from Hensel Companies, Dong from Vietcom Bank Fund, and Tai from ANTS, Zoom from EPVN, Panika from KPMG, and Hong from Vietnam Business Forum. Congratulations to the winners, and our team will get in touch with you after the webinar within 14 business days. And thanks again, everyone, for attending the today's webinar, and we really appreciate to all speakers for your great support and your valuable comments for this market. If you do have any other questions that were not answered during the webinar, please also feel free to send your questions to the email address showing on the slide right now. I will also sum up the questions to our speakers. And also we will share the recordings and the PowerPoint slides of today's webinar to your registration email by next week. And thanks again, everyone, for attending the webinar today. We will see you next time.